Hey, welcome back to my channel. If you are new here, hi, my name is Cassandra. Today's video is my second child pregnancy and birth story. So I did make a video about my first pregnancy, so if you haven't yet seen that video, I'll leave the video down in the description, and if not, it will be here, the little icon. If you are not yet subscribed, don't forget to subscribe for more mommy type videos. So yeah, let's get started. So for my second pregnancy, I no longer worked as a hairdresser. I actually started working at the dollar store. I know it's completely a different type of work, but I didn't like working as a hairdresser. It was very hard emotionally, and especially with children. I can say that you work 40 hours and you're not sure like what you're gonna make as an income per day, and then plus you have working on your own. Here in Quebec we pay the government, so you know, our taxes and stuff like that, but in Quebec you pay a lot more taxes than in the US, and sometimes I would pay like over $600 in taxes at the end of the year, and I found that quite hard, especially when my budget was already very limited, and having two kids, I knew that I wanted more kids. So after my first, I just didn't go back. I decided that I would change, and then plus we moved to a different city. So yeah, so I started working at the dollar store. During this pregnancy, I actually wanted to start by saying how I found out I was pregnant. It was a funny story because we didn't think that we were gonna fall pregnant so quickly. I fell pregnant with Esme when I forgot my pill once. So yeah, I forgot my pill once, and then but later on we decided in the line that we would have a second child. I actually stopped completely, I think a few weeks after I decided to stop my pills completely. But during that time when I forgot my pill, I actually conceived the time I forgot my pill. It didn't take as long as we thought. A month after I forgot my pill, I just knew, like, it's funny because I just knew that I was pregnant. I felt like I was pregnant, and I took a few tests a few days before my cycle, and it was negative. The day of my cycle, I knew that sometimes I always would either skip, or sometimes I would fall on my period like a few days after that. But the day that I was supposed to fall on my period, I decided to take a test. I bought a few tests off like of eBay, I think, and they were those cheap little tests that you buy in packs of like 20 or 30 of them. And because we were gonna try for a baby, so I was like, oh, I'm gonna need a lot, because you know, you always think you're pregnant, or you're always too curious to know if you're pregnant, so you take them in advance, and then well, they end up being negative. So anyways, I bought those packs of 50, like from China, I think. I took one of those in the morning with my morning pee, and oddly it was like a really faint line. Like, you could hardly see it. I just felt like there was a line, but you know when you're not so sure that there's a line but you think there's a line, sometimes your head plays tricks also. So I was like, oh, I'm probably imagining a line. But then I got to I was going to work that morning, and when I got to work, I just couldn't keep it off my mind. So I asked one of my friends that was working that day with me, and I was like, hey, I think I'm pregnant. Like, can you like take the cash 2 seconds? I'm like, I have to go buy a test and take it like right now. I really want to know if I'm pregnant or not. I bought the test from the dollar store, and I went to the bathroom and took the test. It was a clear positive, and I just didn't know what to think. And throughout the whole entire day, I didn't call my boyfriend and tell my boyfriend. I actually decided to film it, which I was looking for the footage yesterday and I can't find it. which kind of makes me sad because I filmed his reaction to me being pregnant. I went back after work, I went to the pharmacy, got a clear blue test that tells you pregnant or not pregnant, and then the amount of weeks that you are. And I retook that test, so that would be how I like showed my boyfriend that I was pregnant. And well, yeah, so I took Jaden into his room and I gave Jaden the test that said pregnant, and I called my boyfriend over, and anyways I filmed the whole thing, and I can't find it, and I'm so upset that I can't find it. I'm pretty sure that I kept it because it was on this memory card, but I couldn't find it. So anyways, and yeah, so that's how we found out that we were pregnant. And then during my pregnancy, I think this pregnancy was a lot more stressful than my first pregnancy. In the beginning, before my 12 weeks, I believe I was like 8 weeks, I woke up with my whole entire bed full of blood, and I really thought that I had a miscarriage, but luckily when I got to the hospital, they told me that there was no sign of a miscarriage, there was no sign of blood. Like literally, I was gushing out blood that morning, TMI. But I was gushing out blood, and I really thought I was having a miscarriage, and we were so upset. But when I got to the hospital, there was no sign. They said that they would look closer to, you know, they would follow me closer to make sure that there was nothing going wrong, and if this wasn't like a beginning of a miscarriage. But it wasn't, luckily. So yeah, for that part, we were stressed out for a lot of the beginning of my pregnancy until at least my 12th week. But when we hit the 12th week, we knew that we should be okay, and that I never had like kids before that I had a miscarriage or something. So yeah. And then later on in my pregnancy, I had my 20-week update, where I had I had a gender reveal, so they didn't tell me if it was a boy or a girl during that, yeah, ultrasound. I had my 20-week ultrasound, and they were they knew if it was a boy or a girl. I put it in like some sort of envelope, and well, then we had our gender reveal, and I'll leave a clip right here of our gender reveal. And yeah, and then during that 20-week ultrasound, they actually thought that my placenta was quite low, so they were afraid that I would have to get a cesarean, and I would have to probably schedule a cesarean to have the baby. The time after the 20 weeks, I was supposed to have I had a 30-week ultrasound also, to be sure that, you know, my placenta went back up, and to be sure that it was placed right and correctly and that everything was fine. But during the whole entire 20 to 30 weeks, it was quite long because I couldn't do very much physical things. So when working, I actually would be sitting down the whole time, and I would only be working like, I think, 4-hour shifts until my 30 week. I actually was lucky that my boss let me leave at 24 weeks since it was too risky, and it was also very complicated for him to find someone, you know, that I could only do 4 hours a day, which was quite hard, you know, like 4 hours a day, that's nothing. So I would leave and they'd practically have to have someone all the time there anyways, you know, so they're not gonna just like have replaced me for 4 hours. Anyways, it was very, very complicated, so I ended up being able to leave at 24 weeks, luckily. And then I couldn't even lift up my son because he weighed like 40 pounds. So that was like, I think, the limit to what I could lift, and so I couldn't even lift him up. So I felt during that pregnancy, I really didn't feel the happiest because, you know, having a young son and not being able to play with him and run around with him, and, you know, and then at my 30 weeks, you know, when you're 30 weeks and up, you don't really feel like running around and playing that much. It's during the time that you're not as big and your stomach's not in the way and you feel less out of breath all the time. But yeah, so after 30 weeks we had our ultrasound and everything was fine. The placenta went back up, so we didn't have to worry about having a cesarean. I started having contractions like almost at 30 weeks, which was a long process of being like, I can't have this baby before, you know, at least 36 weeks, I'm hoping. But yeah, so when I got to my 36 weeks, I started, you know, wanting to induce my labor, which I know is quite early, but it was because I had so much contractions and I didn't feel very good. Like, I would have contractions and then I'd be like, why am I having contractions if I'm not having a baby? So I tried to induce my labor starting at 36 weeks. I didn't do anything like extreme. I did not do the castor oil or nothing like that. I was too scared of that. And with what I've heard and what I've seen on YouTube, I wouldn't do the castor oil. I know that it actually works, but it's like a laxative, so it's very dangerous. So for any moms that are pregnant and trying to induce labor, I do not suggest you do the castor oil. But I did the raspberry tea. I did the primrose oil, little capsule thingies. I took them orally in the beginning, but I also inserted them vaginally. I tried things like the spicy foods. I tried everything. At the end, I went for walks all the time. I did my exercise ball. I really tried, and then I actually gave birth only at 40 weeks and 2 days. So yeah, Esme was due the 28th of October and she was born the 30th of October. For my labor story, and I look at my boyfriend and my boyfriend looks at me and he's like, are you okay? He says, you look really white. And he's like, are you okay? And I was like, I feel dizzy. I said, I don't feel good. I said, I really don't feel good. And then I completely blacked out.